Hello. Hello everybody. Tash Ashwin here. Welcome to the Garden of Entrepreneurial Delights, day number 1. Just going to wait a few moments for people to start joining me live. I have some notes over here on my computer, so if you see me looking off, just making sure that I am staying on track because I have a lot that I want to cover over the next 5 days. In order to make sure that we're really staying abreast of everything, I want to make sure that I'm sticking to the notes. So hello, welcome. It is just so great to see you and to have you here and to be here with you. I'm going to wait just a few moments. I know sometimes Facebook Live, it's like it takes a while for the comments to start coming up. So please say hi and then I can see if the comments are working, and if they're not, eventually they'll click into gear. I wonder if I can tag everyone in the group. Let's see if I can do that just to let people get notified. No, okay, no problem. Anyway, let's just dive right in. So I know that there's a number of you who are brand new to me and a fair few of you who are not. What I would love is if you could please pop in the comments if this is the first time you're catching me live, just say first time. And if you are like a seasoned Tash Ashwin and Ashwin Publishing participant, say seasoned in the comments, just so I can get a gauge of where we're at with this training. Quite a few people have joined this group in preparation for it. So if it is your first time catching me live, I wanted to say a big welcome and a big hello. It's great to have you here. For those of you who may not know who I am or why you should hang around and listen to me, why you should dedicate all of your very precious time to this beautiful container. My name is Tash Ashwin. I am a business coach and the CEO and founder of Ashwin Publishing. I support my clients who are typically soulful entrepreneurs. So I mean soulful meaning if the work you do in your business is your soul's work. You believe that it is a core part of the reason why you're here in this lifetime. Say yes if that's you in the comments. If you're in my field, if you're in my container, I'm going to kind of guarantee like 99% of the time that is you, that the work you do in your business you really deeply believe is like a core component of why you're here on this planet, incarnated in this lifetime. And if that's you, then you are my people. And I support people like you to scale your business, to share your message with the world on a global stage, and to effectively contribute to the contribution of the collective consciousness, shifting the consciousness of the planet, and making great money and having the most fun and not sacrificing the important things in the process. So I am an international best-selling author. I'm a USA Today best-selling author. I have published 7 internationally best-selling books. I've supported over 200 entrepreneurs to share their story and become published international best-selling authors as well. And it's really my mission to activate aliveness and creative flow and passion and joy and like all of the juicy things in my people. So my story is I've been in business for a really long time. I've been online for, I think it's like 8 years this year. My son was 1 when I made the decision to go online. He turns 9 in a few months. Prior to that, was running an in-person clinic doing kinesiology and hypnotherapy and EFT and coaching. And I decided to transition online primarily to have more time because I didn't want to be, chained to the clinic. I didn't want to be chained to a location. My partner is also a muso and he was touring internationally. And I was like, I have to stay at home and see clients. And it just didn't really feel that fun for me. So I turned my business into an online business. And what I very quickly found was it was like the most amazing thing. Like I could literally take my phone and go live from places all around the country and all around the world as well. In the early days, we were touring internationally and make amazing money and serve amazing clients and having the most incredible experience. And it was so fabulous. It like lit up every single circuit in my system. And then what I discovered, and you may be here right now, let me know if you are, what I discovered pretty quickly was that I became heavily addicted to my business. I became addicted to social media. I became addicted to making money. It became like my core focus. And I say that with no shame because I've done a lot of work to release the shame that I had for a very long time around for many years, it seemed like my business was more important than my family. And so when I say creating success without having any of, like, without feeling like you need to sacrifice the important things, I know very well what that is like. And so I was pregnant with my second child. I was in labor with him at home. I was on the bouncing ball. I was keeping everybody asleep. It was 1 a.m. in the morning. I didn't want people to know that I was awake in labor working. Like, I had a book that I was about to, it had to be completely re-edited. It was a whole other thing. It had to be re-edited. I knew that if I left it until after the baby was born, like, it would just probably never get done. And so for like hours, I was moving through contractions, working on my laptop, trying to keep my voice quiet so that I didn't wake anybody up, so that I didn't like let people know. And that was pretty much one of the lowest points for me, really, when I realized, whoa, what the fuck am I doing? So from there, my baby was born. You'd think I would have learned, but no, I didn't. He was 3 weeks old. I went back to work. I look back, all of these photos pop up on my memories of me, like, with my child asleep on my chest, doing coaching sessions and breastfeeding in cafes and working. And, you know, at the time I was like, I can do anything. I'm Superwoman. I've just had the most incredible home birth experience. Like, it blew my mind. And I literally felt that I could do it all. That went on for about 8 or 9 months. And then you can probably guess what happened. My body went into extreme burnout, extreme adrenal fatigue. I had an autoimmune disease flare up, and it was like I was wiped out for 18 months. And it took a long time for me to unwind all of these patterns and all of this conditioning around working hard. You know, you have to, if you want to make lots of money, then it has to be a hard slog, and you have to prove to everyone that you've earned it. A lot of the like patriarchal conditioning. I was very in my masculine for a very long time. And so fast forward now, my youngest is now 4, and I took 1.5 years off my business effectively to heal, to unwind, to recode my whole system. And I learned how to create business in a way that wasn't that, right? It wasn't driven from hustle. It wasn't driven from grind. It wasn't driven from force. It wasn't driven from like up here. I wasn't leading with my head. I was actually starting to lead with my body, lead with my cycles, lead with my creative inspiration, lead with my joy, lead with my aliveness, create from my aliveness. And everything changed in my business. There was a period of time where I was not in any way making anywhere near the same kind of money as I was before, because in the past, I was literally working nonstop, right? I was like creating from this space of just extreme addiction and overload and pressure, so much pressure. So it definitely took a time for like things to recalibrate and for the income to kind of stabilize. But it finally did, and I realized how powerful it is to actually learn how to grow business as women, grow business from our feminine. Looks very different to creating a business from our masculine energy. One of the big driving forces for me to learn how to do that was uncovering more about my human design and learning about how I'm actually wired to create. We are going to talk about this, not today, but we're going to talk about creation in alignment with human design, because it literally changed my life so much when I learned that I am a manifesting generator. I'm here to create on the fly, to be like the ones that everyone's like, how are you doing what you do? But I have my process. And when I learned how to create in a way that felt fun and joyous and alive and not like forced and performative, everything totally shifted in my life. Everything in my business, in the ways that I was showing up and leading, in the kind of clients that I was attracting, in like the satisfaction that I was able to actually hold in my system. You know, it's one thing, and this is what I see a lot with my clients who are creating big companies, big businesses, is that they've built these amazing companies and businesses and enterprises, and they've got money, but they're really miserable and they're really dissatisfied. And they're like, I didn't build this to feel this way. So that's one of the big things that I love to unravel with people, is like, how do you actually create and build and nurture and grow a business so that it's fun And so that you are, yes, being profitable, it's making money, you are serving your people, and you're also living your life and having a great time with your family at the same time, because it's like so important, right? Say yes in the comments if it is. And I still can't see your comments, but that's okay. They will pop up eventually. So, a little bit of a contextual story. It is my greatest honor and love to serve my clients and to support them to really step into their power creatively in a way that like activates their innate sense of inspiration. Because what we're going to talk about today is the energetics of creativity and how to unlock the raw material of your creative genius. The raw material, I'm going to explain what I mean by that. But when we do unlock creative energy and it is unlocked from the body, it moves up and out through the body, just as much as it also moves down and in. We can kind of activate it from two different ways. And we're going to speak about that. It sets every single energy system, energy center, every single meridian, every single energetic circuit in your body. It sets it alive. It completely and utterly, like your circuits become lit up like a giant Christmas tree. And it is the most incredible feeling when you are in your creative genius, when you are in your creative flow, and when you really feel as if you are channeling your best work. Like, it is the most amazing feeling. And let me know in the comments, and I'll come back and read them when they come up. Let me know in the comments if you've experienced that feeling of being in full-blown creative activation. Now, for a long time, I've experienced this in many different ways in my life. And I shut it down for a long time too, right? When I was like, I have to create based off what everyone else is doing. I have to create based off the trends, what's trending, what the algorithm is responding to. These days I've thrown all of that fucking bullshit out the window. And yes, I swear a little bit. No, I'm not sorry. And I've learned that if it's not like, if I don't feel it in here, in womb, in pussy, in heart, in throat, if I don't feel it, it's like, what is the fucking point? What is the point, right? But for a long time, I had this really big desire to write a book. And, you know, I have written books and I've published books, but this was like a different kind of book. This was like the book that I had been wanting to write ever since I was 19 years old, and I was high on magic mushrooms with my friends, having the most amazing time. And I received this download, this story, this narrative, this like whole other world just dropped into my head. And it's like this creative, like fantasy. Anyway, it was like this whole thing just opened up in my mind. And I was like, that would make the most amazing book. I would love to write that. I love fantasy. I love romantasy. I love, I love that. And I parked it in the back of my mind and I was like, I can't write a book like that. Like, that's just next level. And I don't think that's for me. Anyway, nearly 20 years later, that idea, that seed of inspiration was still in my mind. And I was like, recently, about a year ago, I should write that book. I got to write that book. That book has been, like, that story has been hanging around in my mind, taking out, like, renting space in my mind for free for nearly 2 decades. Why am I not writing the book? And when I really peeled into the energetics of why, I realized it was because I was actually really terrified. I could foresee that when I started locking into this story, this narrative, that it would potentially overtake me. It would overwhelm me. I would potentially become really obsessed by it. Like it's all I would want to do. I could almost see this whole timeline. All I'd want to do is be in this story and be in this creation mode and be in this like channeling this experience and writing this whole other world. And I held off writing it because I was like, I have a business. I serve lots of clients. I have 2 children under 9. I have a partner. I have a household. I'm a mum. I have lots going on in my world. Do I have space and time for that? And I actually blocked it off for so many years because I was afraid that I would just become really taken by it. And I would be like, what if it overwhelms me? Let me know if you've ever had that experience before or that fear before. It's like a nuanced one. But anyway, about a year ago, I sat down and I started writing the book. And it was really the most incredible experience. It was difficult. It was really hard. It didn't come the way I thought it was going to come. I imagined I would sit down to write and all of a sudden, boom, it would just like pour out of me. And that actually didn't happen. That didn't happen. But I stuck with it. I persevered. No, I haven't finished it. I'm about 80,000 words in. I'm only about a third of the way through it, but it has been the most delightful, exciting, amazing experience. And I've learned a lot about the creative process through this experience, right? Because I teach a lot with my clients. I teach a lot around how to write amazing content, how to articulate your story in a multi-author book, and how to leverage your story so that you are selling through your story. I teach a lot about authenticity and how to be the real you in your business and, on the front stage. But this experience was actually a really personal one. It was really personal. It was a lot around how can I access the deepest currents of my creative pulse. And one thing that I've discovered after having reintroduced the piano back into my life about 4 weeks ago, I loved the piano when I was a child. It was my thing. I would go to the piano and I would hand over my emotions and it would alchemize me, and I would play for hours on end. And then at 18, I decided to get rid of it, and I walked away and I went overseas, and I said goodbye to the love of my life, at that time, right? Similar kind of story. 20 years later, nearly, I realized that this big missing in my world, that I was what is the missing? What is the ache? What is the hole in my heart that I've lived with for so long, that I was I'd lived with it for so long that it almost just become really normal, was this missing piece of the piano that I loved when I was a child. And so 4 weeks ago, you probably, if you follow me, you would have seen me blasting it everywhere because I've been so excited. I bought a piano and I had it delivered to my house, and I've been playing every day. And what I've discovered has actually prompted this entire thing that you're here with me now, live in the Garden of Entrepreneurial Delights. It has made me realize that when we give ourselves permission to create in the way that we used to create when we were a child, something very magical happens. Something actually very profound happens. We unleash the raw material of our creative genius in a whole new way. This has been my experience, at least. I have never in my life felt so fucking inspired, so alive, so creatively activated, so in my life, right? In my creative power, in my creative genius. I've never in my life felt this. And as a result, business is feeling so great, is booming. I've got these amazing people finding me magnetically, and I feel like I'm really in flow. I'm writing poetry again for the first time in 20 years. My book is streaming through me in a way that it hasn't yet streamed. It is moving through me really powerfully, and I'm getting closer and closer, and it's that is the most incredible experience as well. I'm in my creative sexual prime with this energy, right? And this is something we're going to talk about today, how creative energy and sexual energy is creativity is just life force energy without anywhere to go. When we take life force energy and we direct it and we give it shape and we give it form and we create something from nothing, we are accessing the creative flow. But that energy is, as women, is stored in our sacral, is stored in the same area as our sexuality energy, as our sensuality, as our aliveness, as our passion. And when we block off from that, which we do, it's very common to block off from that energy. I know that after having children, feeling extremely sleep deprived, feeling like everybody wanted everything from me, oh my God, there's no way that I had sexual energy as well as creative energy, right, at that time. But what I'm here to do over the next 5 days is to essentially inspire you to activate that energy within yourself again. That aliveness, that passion, that the thing that you loved to do when you were a child, are you still doing it now? Whether it was dancing or writing or playing the piano or playing sport or sitting in the sun, whatever it was that you used to do that gave you that bliss, that activated your fluorescence, the fluorescent nature of your inner child. We're going to be accessing that. So all of that to say, welcome. I would love to know in the comments at the moment in your business, Does it feel exciting and inspiring? And I wish I could see your comments, but I can't. Maybe if I pop it over on my computer. Hang on 1 second. Does it feel exciting and inspiring? Or, let me just turn the sound down. Or does it feel not exciting and inspiring? I would love to hear that. Where are you at the moment? 12 comments. There we go. Yay. Okay. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Maya. So please let me know, is it feeling exciting and inspiring in business right now? Or is it feeling like, not necessarily that exciting and inspiring? Are you feeling like you are creating from within out? Are you trusting the creative impulse that comes? Excellent. I can see you now on the screen. Great. Are you trusting the creative impulse that comes up and out through your body, through your womb, through your pussy, through your heart, through your throat? Or are you kind of coming inward and out, right? Like, are you looking around, seeing what other people are doing, seeing what's trending, seeing what's like working for other people, and not necessarily trusting your own creative impulse? Not even really maybe knowing how to access that creative impulse. Because what I want to share today is that creativity is cyclical. And there will be moments in your life when you will feel so inspired and so alive and so like the creativity is there. The impulse to create, to take something to turn nothing into something, right? The impulse is there. But then there's times in our lives when it's seasonal, right? When maybe we don't have the space, the mental, the energetic space for creation. Maybe we're in a season of early motherhood, or maybe we're caring for a sick family member, or maybe we're dealing with a lot of stress in our lives. Financial stress seems to completely neutralize the creative impulse. That's what I've noticed, at least. And it's very easy for us to kind of lose momentum in our creativity. But creativity is cyclical, it is energetic, it is seasonal, and it builds momentum. So the more you create, the more you want to create. The more you give yourself permission to create, even if it doesn't feel very like creative, the more that impulse and that desire is going to actually come through you. So one of the 3 top things that I see contributing to people's businesses feeling uninspiring, feeling like, maybe I'm recycling all the same things, like I'm working with the same offers that used to work in the past. I'm still articulating a message that I was speaking a few years ago, but it doesn't really feel exciting to me anymore. It's because of overthinking and perfectionism. That's number 1. And let me know if any of these ones you resonate with. Overthinking and perfectionism. So you might have the seed of a creative impulse, but then you overthink it, or it's not perfect enough. So you hold back and you don't actually take that impulse and turn it into something like tangible in 3D reality. The perfectionism and the overthinking, like it's very heady. It's staying in here rather than feeling it move through our system from our body. The second one is forcing it instead of feeling it, pretty much what I just said, right? Where we force the impulse. We get still very in our head, but we kind of get in our masculine with it. We're like, I'm going to get this out there. That somatic experience, if you imagine closing your eyes and imagining what it would feel like to shove a square peg in a round hole, the frustration that comes, the brute force that comes from trying to make something do something it's not meant to do. Very common. I see it all the time. I've lived it for years. It drained my adrenals completely and utterly. And then the third one is actually strategic overload. So all of these are very heady, right? You can really sense that. Strategic overload is where we're kind of drowning in frameworks instead of trusting our instincts. We're thinking like, I've got to do this a certain way. It has to look a certain way. It has to feel a certain way. Business creation, content, new offers, emails, all of it gets pretty overwhelming if we don't have a way to actually assess, is this right for me? Yes or no? Strategic overload, forcing instead of feeling, and overthinking and perfectionism. Please let me know which ones resonate with you. Yes, perfectionism. Yes, forcing, then freeze. Yes, then we go into freeze. where it's too much, my system is completely overloaded and I'm going to shut down. That was my pattern as well. What I learned actually was that like the forcing function was actually in its way a form of like avoidance, right? It was like, it's too much to be here in this space, so I'm just going to go into overload. I'm just going to go into like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like autopilot. I'm just going to go into autopilot because being here in my body right now feels it's too much. So I'm going to live up here in my head. Energetically, we are a society of people who are just little heads floating around without any embodied connection to their body. And what I have learned about creativity and like trusting the raw material and unlocking the raw material of your creative genius is that it doesn't live in the mind. It lives very much in the body. And sometimes for some people, whether you have experienced some kind of trauma in the past, being in the body is actually can be a pretty scary place to live. If you've experienced physical, sexual, emotional trauma, it's like too much. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to feel that. So I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to discombobulate. I'm going to disassociate, and I'm going to flood up to my mind. Now, we're not going to be delving too much into this today, but I wanted to flag it because if you have experienced that in the past and you are dealing with like the frustration and the uninspiration of what I've just shared, there's some deeper work to be done there around having your body be a safe place to reside in. I do a lot of this work in my one-on-one work with clients. It's very profound when you can move through and thaw out your body, because often we freeze and it goes into total frozen. When we can thaw it out, learn how to process and move what's been stuck there for a very long time, move it out of our system, like actually move it from our body, that's when we are then able to access the full creative power and passion and aliveness that lives in our cells, that lives in our bodies. It is a very big energetic process to be embodied in your creative genius, to trust your creative genius, to give yourself permission. A lot of soulful entrepreneurs, it's not a strategy problem that they have, it's a permission problem where they don't give themselves permission to play, to create, to have fun, to like dream big, to allow themselves to be in the bigness of their soul's work, to allow their business to be a masterpiece in motion rather than a performed thing that doesn't necessarily feel congruent and doesn't necessarily feel authentic and doesn't necessarily feel exciting anymore. Why are we doing this if it's not feeling exciting? So let's unpack this notion of the raw material of your creative genius. Because when I've been in creative flow, when I've fully been, like I've collapsed the time between having an impulse to create something and taking action on it. When we stretch the time between having a creative impulse and taking action on it, we're actually warping the magic that can happen. When we're fully in flow, what that actually means is that we've collapsed time, right? We've collapsed the time between having an idea, having a spark of inspiration and following it through to an action in the 3D reality, like actually embodying it and bringing it down into the 3D reality. And often if we are in overthinking, overfunctioning, comparison analysis, the reason why we've stretched that time out is because we are in our heads, right? And we're overthinking and we're perfectionism and we're enforcing over allowing. So when we are able to access the raw material, what do I mean by raw material? The raw material is like the raw material of your creativity before it's given form. So it's often unpolished. It's often like rough around the edges. It often like we only have a seed or like the first step often. And we want to be sure. We want to know that we want to have a guarantee that if I'm going to do this and follow this spark of inspiration, is it going to work? Like, what if I dedicate all this time and energy and belief and maybe even money and it doesn't work? And that's often what the biggest thing that holds us back is that we want to have a guarantee that what we're going to do is going to pay off. When the truth is that there is never a guarantee, especially when we're in creation mode, when we are fully trusting. Like, it's like, you know, that scene in the Matrix where like they slow down time and they're fighting, but it's kind of like, you know, and I think Neo does like the backward walk up the wall. Like, that's the Jedi energy that happens when we're in when we're in the slipstream in life, right? When we're trusting our creative flow, when we are taking action, when we're being fearless, when we're recognizing that there's no guarantee, and fuck, there's no guarantee ever. And so can I just have fun with this? Can I just allow myself to play with this? Can I put all fear of judgment and, you know, that I'm going to be ridiculed or that I'm going to be rejected or that I'm going to be abandoned, all of that just to the side and give myself permission for this? So in order to access this raw material, we need to give ourselves permission to create without guarantee and recognize that potentially that can be a lot of fun. It's like the mind that wants to have the guarantee, the inner saboteur that wants to know, is it going to work? It's like when we feel an impulse to work with someone or to make a big investment in ourselves, in our business, and we're like holding back on, teetering on the edge because we're like, I want to know that it's going to work. I want to know that it's going to pay off, that I'm going to get my ROI, that it's going to like be the thing that catapults me. Often that very energy warps the whole experience because we're going in white-knuckled to the outcome. We're going in with this like, it has to work, like gritted teeth. If I speak with someone who's on the fence about investing in one of my programs or my close proximity mentorship, I will often like assess this, because what we want to do is release all expectation. And that's really hard to do sometimes, especially when there's high stakes. How can we release the expectation, the attachment to the outcome, and go, you know what, this feels fun. This feels exciting. This feels like I'm anchored in possibility. What might happen? What could happen? Not what should happen or what must happen. So I'd love for you to let me know in the comments, where are you creating with a sense of expectation? Please let me know in the comments. Is it like I'm putting out content in my business because someone told me that I need to be seen every day? Someone told me that I need to be like consistent. And so I'm sparing out all of this content, but I'm not necessarily feeling it. It's not really feeling exciting for me. And I'm attached to the outcome. I'm like, this content has to lead to sales. It has to lead to money. It has to lead to new people. Where am I white-knuckled gripping onto the expectation in my creations, in my business, and in my life? And if it doesn't feel fun for you when you're putting it out there, what makes you think it's going to feel fun for the people who are reading it or for the people who are coming across your stuff on the internet? We are in an era of information overload, especially with ChatGPT and AI. There are so many words out there. There are so many words out there. Now, I use ChatGPT a lot to spark inspiration and to help me formulate ideas and to like give like form to my creative chaos, to help me create form. But what I'm resistant to these days is just completely copying and pasting something and like pretending that it's mine. I will always make it mine. If I'm going to be creating content or ideas, people can sense it. So if you don't feel it when you write it, they don't feel it when they read it. I say this to my authors over and over and over again. If you're not feeling it when you're writing it or when you're speaking it, they're not feeling it when they're reading it or when they're hearing it. And this can be a really powerful like reality check, because we can get into autopilot in business, right? Like I was for many years, just putting things out and launching and making money and serving people. But like, yeah, it was fun. It was cool. But it wasn't really fucking like igniting me. It wasn't igniting me. And yes, I was making money. And yes, my clients were still getting great results. And, you know, I was showing up and doing my thing and like creating magic. But it was forced. It was kind of performed. It was like not really embodied, coming from a sense of excitement and aliveness and joy. And that's the difference between someone walking in the room and you feeling them. Like they walk into the room and you're like, whoa, their presence is bigger than their body. And someone walking in the room and they're like invisible. And the same thing happens on social media when we're creating content in our business. If you're putting things out there and it's not really having any it's not having any engagement, people aren't liking it, aren't commenting on it, it's not leading to sales, you can kind of feel like, I'm just standing there screaming into the void. Then often it's a great opportunity to ask yourself, where am I not connected to my sense of aliveness in what I'm saying, in what I'm putting out there? Where am I just repeating? Where am I like taking like an idea and making it my own, but it's not really my magic. It's not connected to the raw material of my creative genius. It doesn't have my unique fingerprint, my unique frequency. So please let me know in the comments if you've experienced this, if you are experiencing this now, or if you have experienced it in the past. Because what we need to do is we need to connect you back to the creative pulse of your creative genius, to the raw material of your creative genius. So I want you to take a breath and I want you to close your eyes. I love to do embodied processing throughout my sessions because often otherwise it's just like a bunch of words, right? So if you have the space and the opportunity, I really invite you to close your eyes. We'll get a couple of minutes. Close your eyes and put a hand somewhere on your body and just sink into your system. And you might like to feel your feet on the floor, or you might like to feel your bum on the chair and the chair supporting your spine. And I want you to just feel into the energetic wiring of your system right now. And the majority of you are women, so we're going to work with this creative space of the womb just for a moment, coming down into the pelvic bowl, into the cauldron of the pelvic area, the womb space. So you might like to place a hand there. And if you've had your womb removed, the energetics of it are still there. And imagining, if you will, that it's a cave. And it's a dark, warm cave. And you can actually create it as a space and you can enter it. This is the cave of your womb, the cave of your creative pulse, the cave of your life force, of your vitality and aliveness, of your sexuality, of your woman. Your woman resides here. And if you can come and like give yourself permission to stand at the mouth of the cave. And just for a moment, just assessing, how does it feel? What does it look like if you're visual? Is there life here? Or does it feel dark and dank? And if it does feel dark and dank, can you start to give it some life? Maybe build a fire in the middle. Maybe put some plush rugs. Maybe hang some art on the walls. Maybe bring in some lamps. We can actually give this space some life. Maybe some red drapes coming from the ceiling, flowing down to the sides of the cave, creating it like a bit of a tent. And in this cave, when you've created it in a way that feels really warm and cozy and potent, I want you to ask yourself, what is being activated in me? What am I wanting to create? What do I desire to create? What does my womb wish to nurture and grow and birth in this reality right now? And even in your business, where am I creating but not really feeling what I'm creating? And then what do I desire to create moving forward? What do I desire to birth? And you might just get a seed like a little hint. You might just get a little intuitive something. You might not get anything, and that's fine too. Putting out the intention that you receive a creative pulse, a creative seed later in the day. But just taking a breath. I like to come to my womb room, I call it, when I'm wanting to check in on where my projects are at and if I'm really feeling energetically aligned to them again or not. If I know about myself being a sacral being in human design, that if I don't have any aliveness associated with my creations, it feels not fun. And as a result, it feels like work. And as a result, I end up avoiding it and resisting it. So coming back to the feeling of your hands on your body and the sound of my voice. And when you're ready, you can open up your eyes. I need to declutter the cave before I hang the plush curtains. Okay, that's great. That's great data, Lisa. Hello, love. That's great data. Where am I, not tending to my womb, to my fire, to my aliveness? Where have I dimmed the fire? And how can I actually reinvigorate it? How can I actually give myself permission to create before judging, right? So that I'm not judging myself. I'm not judging my creative impulse. I'm actually responding to it. I'm activating it. I'm moving with it. I'm dancing with it. The creative pulse, it is a pulse. It's like a heartbeat. You can't control it. Just like you can slow down and speed up your heart, but the creative pulse, it comes in rhythms. It comes in cycles. And when you trust the cycle of your creativity, and when you give yourself permission to create without judging, wow. So follow the spark. Sense the spark, right? There's always going to be a spark. An idea drops in. It sparks. It takes root in your system, in your womb, in your heart, where you feel it the most. What is the spark of inspiration right now? And this is your homework for today, is to find the spark of inspiration and to give yourself permission to actually follow the spark, to create without judging. So let things be raw, let them be unpolished, let it be experimental, let it be chaotic. It doesn't need to be refined. It doesn't need to be polished. That's not what we're doing here. And in fact, the desire for polished perfection is an illusion that will keep you separated from your creativity. So let it be raw. Let it be unpolished. Let it be absolutely, completely and utterly experimental. And then what we want to do is we want to find the activation points. So what are the environments or the actions or the conversations or the rhythms or the people or the music or the things that you do that actually activate your creativity? So for me, lately, it's sitting down at my piano, it's playing my Debussy, it's playing my Rachmaninoff, it is being in the full emotional expression of my art and my love for my music. And I'm like, handing it all over. I hand it over and I alchemize it. It might be dancing in your living room. It might be swimming naked in the ocean. It might be making love with your partner. It might be making love with yourself. It might be cooking and eating beautiful food or drinking a glass of top-notch wine or getting out into nature, getting out and for a bushwalk, going to the bushes, sitting with the trees, being one with the fairies and the elementals. What is your activation point? What are your activation points? Because it's usually more than one. So that's what I want you to do the mission, should you choose to accept it today, is to follow the spark. So find the spark of creativity. Give yourself permission to follow it and create without judging. And then find the activation points. What are the things that activate your creativity? The things that get you in flow. And we're going to be meeting tomorrow at 12 p.m. It's not 10 a.m. Tomorrow is 12. And I'm going to be sending out an email letting everyone know that. And we're going to be talking about business as art. Business as art. So how to create your business as a masterpiece in motion rather than a regurgitated or performed or, machine. It's not a machine. Your business is not a machine. It is an organic, living thing that you co-create with. And when you treat it as a machine, you do it an incredible disservice. you do it it's actually like, I see it now as being disrespectful to the essence and energy of your business. That's a little hint of what we're going to be speaking about tomorrow. Interesting, my cave felt terrifying at the mouth of the cave, but once inside, it was like an emerald heart. Zoe, that's really beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for being with me today, day one. Super honored and excited to be here with you. We're going to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, potentially a break over the weekend. I'm going to leave it open. I might do something spontaneous, but then we will finish Monday and Tuesday next week. And I'm actually considering having Monday and Tuesday next week being in a Zoom room. So that will be at 10 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Sydney time. And if you'd like to join me in a Zoom room and we can actually have this be an in-person conversation, then let me know. Let me know in the comments. Beautiful woman. And I think a few men in here too. Thank you so much.